Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Welcome back to my channel. So I recently went on a trip to London, England, and apart from all the usual sightseeing and tourist activities, one of my main goals of the trip was to hunt down all of the limited edition Britney Spears fantasy fragrances that never made it overseas to North America. So back in the day, Britney used to release all of her fragrances here, but recently, probably the last 5 or 6 fantasies were only released in Europe, and it's been very difficult for me to get them here in Canada. And I know some people in the United States have been having trouble finding them there as well. So when I got to London, I was like, okay, I'm gonna search every Superdrug, every Boots, every perfume shop in the whole city until I find all of them. So there were 6 of them that I was trying to get. I was mostly successful. I ended up finding 4 out of the 6. I found Fantasy Intense, as well as the new Blissful Fantasy, and Electric Fantasy as well. So I'm going to be reviewing all these, but not in today's video. Today I want to talk about the 4th one that I found, which is Glitter Fantasy, which is sitting right behind me. So Glitter Fantasy was released in 2020, and this one was sort of the hardest one to find. Blissful Fantasy, because it's newer, it was kind of everywhere. It was even at the duty-free shop. Intense Fantasy was a little harder to find. Electric Fantasy was kind of all over the place. But Glitter Fantasy, I only found this one box. I think it was like the 5th shop I went to, and I saw it in the shop, very last box. And it was on sale, so it was just like a perfect lucky find. So let me show you the box. So we have our traditional fantasy box with our pyramid in the center, and then the 2 smaller triangles on the side. So this time we have a bright magenta coloring of the 2 side triangles. This box is a little bit damaged. Like I said, it was the only one in the whole city, so I'm like, well, I'm not leaving without it, so I had to just settle for that. And inside here in the center, we have glitter written in very sort of like easy breezy writing on top of what's actual glitter. Like, it's not just a sparkle, you can feel they actually like pressed glitter onto this part of the box, which is really nice. And it goes all along the side, pure glitter. And the back has a nice picture of the fragrance just sitting on all of these sparkles with the lights kind of shining in the background. Very nice. So it's definitely like a collector's box. I mean, all of them are. Even on the top we have glitter. It just really looks really nice when you have it like sitting kind of like in the light, just sparkling and bringing some extra Britney cheer to your life. Okay, so we're gonna put that here. And here we have our fantasy. Sorry, I was like, am I actually recording? Okay, sometimes I do that. Sometimes I'll film an entire video and realize the camera was not on. So this is the Glitter Fantasy bottle. This is the 100 milliliter. I got all 100 milliliters, and I'm actually going back and I'm like upgrading some of my older, smaller bottles to like 100 milliliters because I find they just look a lot nicer when they're bigger. So we do have a little change of our design. So normally, of course, we have our fantasy crystals along the entirety of the bottle, but this time around the crystals are gone, and in their place is just an endless sea of glitter. So it's a very light pink bottle, light pink fluid. The whole thing is covered in glitter. It again has the actual, like, it's not just the idea of glitter, it's like actual glitter caked onto it. But it doesn't come off on your, okay, well, as I say that, I can see glitter on my fingers. I was gonna say, it doesn't actually come off on your hands, but I'll say it very rarely comes off on your hands, which is good. It stays where it's supposed to be. The lid is really cute because it's clear plastic, but it's just filled with like little moonlit sparkles. And the rim is silver. So it's very sparkly, bubbly, fresh, glittery, and effervescent, we'll call it. So I do really like this fragrance. The last fantasy I reviewed was Festive Fantasy, but this one really, as soon as I smelled it, I was like, wow, this is really an uplifting, energetic kind of fragrance, and I'm really excited to talk about it. So I have some things to say. Okay, so Glitter Fantasy. There are some fantasies that smell very similar to the original. They just kind of like put their own swing on things. And there are other ones that are completely different, like they very much could have been a brand new fragrance. This one is more the former. It definitely has the original fantasy DNA, but it gives it its own personal swing on it, and I do enjoy it. I'm just gonna tell you the notes here. Okay, so in the top note of the fragrance, we have red fruits. I hate when it's like generic like that, but it just said red fruits and plum. The middle of the fragrance, we have heliotrope, lotus, and violet. And in the base, we have musk, benzoin, and agar wood, which, if you may or may not know, is another name for oud. Okay, so everything I told you, basically just forget it. I feel like these notes, I don't know if they're incorrect or just strange. A lot of those are not notes that are found in the original fantasy, but with this fragrance, the way I can describe it is that when you first spray it, it smells to me like a fresh glass of raspberry lemonade. I sprayed it a little bit earlier and I felt, you know, the same way I always feel when I spray it. It's very invigorating and sparkling and glittery. So, okay. So even though raspberries were not listed and neither was any citruses, I don't smell plum. I mean, red fruits, I guess, maybe that's the raspberry, but I feel like I would describe this top note as lemon, raspberry, and a little bit of, I can just picture it, like it's very refreshing. It's a very refreshing fragrance. It's very sweet and fruity. But right away, you kind of know that this is a fantasy fragrance. Like if you were like blinded and someone just gave you this fragrance, I feel like you can kind of identify it as a fantasy, even though we're not quite in that territory yet. We're still in the raspberry lemonade phase, which is longer lasting than you would expect. It already has a little bit of that original fantasy DNA in it, despite it not sharing the same notes. Like there's no cupcake accord, there's no vanilla orchid, like there's none of that, but it still kind of is hinting towards that. In terms of the florals, where did they go? Okay, heliotrope, lotus, and violet. I don't smell any violet in this fragrance. Lotus, yeah, because it has that refreshing light floral aspect to it, and heliotrope, fine. But if you wanted to get my honest opinion, my sort of briefest explanation of the identity of this fragrance, I know I've said it before, but fresh raspberry lemonade with a very soft floral watery touch. Now the base of the fragrance is the most mysterious and deceptive. Musk, yes. Benzoin has that richer sweetness to it. It's like similar to amber, where it kind of gives you, it's not really a candy sweet, it is more of like a floral oriental kind of vibe. Benzoin tends to add more of a sophisticated, almost musky sweetness than traditional gourmand notes like the original fantasy had. So this one isn't nearly as baked as the original one. It's not quite as sugary or as cupcake-like, but it still does have the sweetness from that benzoin. In terms of the oud, so, you know, some people love oud. It's like their favorite thing ever. Other people hate it. I would say whether you love it or hate it, I would be very shocked to find out that actual oud was in this fragrance, because that is a very expensive ingredient. I think I talked about this in another video I did that claimed to have oud. It's very difficult to obtain this ingredient, and fragrances that have like natural, real extracted oud tend to be very expensive. This fragrance was not expensive. Again, I got it on sale. I think I paid £15 because it was on sale. But regardless, I really, not only do I not smell the oud at all, but I just don't believe that it's in there for the price of the fragrance. I mean, it really wouldn't lend itself very well to raspberries and lemonade and like a fantasy fragrance anyways, unless it was like a rich, deep, like nocturnal fantasy or something that was just pure like woody elements, then fine, but this is just not it. So again, let's just pretend that we never even said that word. Okay, so I don't have too much more to say about this. There was no additional products with this because it was a limited launch. This is an eau de toilette fragrance, which some of her sort of limited ones are, so it's perfect for summer. It's a little bit lighter than most of her other ones. I'm going to do a quick summary of the fragrance. So Glitter Fantasy is a wait, I don't like that. Okay. So Glitter Fantasy is a very sparkling, bubbly, refreshing interpretation of the original Fantasy. It has very bright raspberry and citrus elements in the beginning of the fragrance. To me, it smells like a fresh, cool glass of raspberry lemonade. It's very inviting, it's very summery, it's very sweet, but it's not heavy. The heart of the fragrance lends a sort of floral touch that I would say would describe mainly as an aquatic lotus, but ignoring sort of the other two. And the very mysterious and deceptive base of oud and benzoin and musk is, in my opinion, a little bit more lighter and not quite there. I would say the sweetness is brought to you with a sophistication from the benzoin. It's not too heavy, it's not too baked. It lends itself pretty well to the freshness and the sort of glitteriness of the fragrance. And overall, I think it is quite balanced. It doesn't last too long, being a more refreshing eau de toilette. It's not going to last throughout the entire night, but it's perfect for daytime, perfect for warm weather. It's very bright and sunny. It makes you kind of smile. I love the bottle, and I'm really glad that I finally got a chance to get it. Alright, so that is the end of my Glitter Fantasy by Britney Spears fragrance review. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to find a bottle. I know it's not easy, but if you can find it, definitely grab it. They are dwindling away, even in London, so try to get it as soon as possible. And it'd be a great spring and summer kind of fragrance to your collection. Okay, so that's the end of my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I will be doing more Britney videos in the future, as well as collection videos. And that's it for now, so have a great day, and I'll see you next time for some more fragrance reviews.